bits and pieces about wildlife showing up now coated with this crude oil.
Yeah, the spill goes out about 50 yards into the water. You're watching a combined edition of News Channel 3 and KCOY 12 Central Coast News. I'm Scott Hennessy.
And I'm Beth Farnsworth. We have our senior reporter, John Palmentary, live at the scene with the very latest information on this spill. John?
And this is escalating now. Even though the pipeline of flow has been stopped, this was a 24-inch pipeline from the Plains All-American Oil Pipeline. The situation now has escalated from where we were 1 hour ago. I'm going to go over my right shoulder with the camera. We're going to go down to the coastline. This is now south of Refugio Beach, or below the state park, and it was not here earlier. And if you see in this shot, you're seeing globs of oil now coming ashore in this location, and it was not here at 5 o'clock. That's a very serious form of concern, and people are now really worried about the coastline, the marine life, and the extent of this quantity of oil, this unknown quantity of oil. And this all started back around noon today when there was a smell of petroleum in the air. Ranchers knew about it. Those driving by certainly knew there was something wrong. The county fire department came out and were able to locate it. They knew that there was something wrong, and they knew that it was getting worse.
And the source of the leak turned out to be on the north side of the freeway. It was a broken pipeline, and so they were able to direct people into that area and ultimately get that pipeline shut down in a much faster way.
So we're back here at Refugio State Beach, and we had heard from Captain Dave Zanaboni. If you look over to the horizon now, it's a very fluid situation. We have now seen multiple vessels that have come out here. Clean Seas is the long-time major oil response operation out of here. And you'll see several boats out there now, and the far right one has what's called a boom. A boom is able to lay out on top of the ocean and start capturing what's floating on the surface and start sucking it in to one particular area and keep it from spreading. That is very critical to keep what they can see from flowing out. Now, the water temperatures, we understand, and hopefully Alan can help me with this, are in the low to mid 60s. The water temperature is very important with the coagulation of the oil, the blobbing of it, to be able to see it, get it on the surface, and be able to capture it and retrieve it. And then, as you see, we have several vessels there, even a helicopter flying over. The Coast Guard, Office of Emergency Services, County Fire, environmental groups, and some of the local oil agencies are all in a united command, along with the State Park Department, as to what to do, how much oil is on the beach, what they're going to do about it. And as we've seen already in some pictures, we have some oily birds that have now come ashore, not in large numbers, but we've seen some evidence of that already. If we can pan right on over again one more time. This is now before Refugio State Beach, or what would be determined to be the east of Refugio State Beach, and oil now has come ashore in this area, and we did not see this an hour ago, and they're surveying the area to see how far it has gone down the coastline and what the future impacts will be. You can rest assured a number of agencies are responding to this to try and measure this and measure their response effectively and quickly tonight before the sun goes down and first thing at dawn tomorrow morning. And certainly a number of the watchdog groups in Santa Barbara County are going to be speaking to this as well before long. That's the very latest from Refugio State Beach. And one more thing, if we can just turn around as it's happening right now, we've got the freight train coming through. And I want to point out to you, both passenger and freights have been coming through now at a slower speed because of all the emergency responders coming into this area. So as this train comes by, I will send it back to you. This is live from Refugio Beach, the scene of the oil spill.
Okay, Coast Guard officials are estimating 21,000 gallons of oil into the ocean right now. State officials, according to the LA Times at least, are refusing to speculate at this time as to how much oil got there into the ocean. But the leak began shortly before noon, and they say that they stopped that leak by about 3 p.m. Now, John just showed us, Beth, the buoys that are being put out there and the response out in the water. We did not see that as recently as an hour ago, so they are now really getting that front to stop the spread spread in the ocean at this hour.
And the spread is significant because when this pipeline broke before noon today, that initial slick was about 100 yards by a half mile, then spread to 4 miles. And as John Palmentary just said, it has pushed farther south, farther than it was an hour ago. So again, we've got multiple agencies on scene there, and we have limited daylight hours left.
Yeah, wildlife, obviously a major concern here. In our 5 o'clock report, we saw a whale in the picture in the area where the oil is. John mentioned the warmer waters, and that is the time of year when the blue whales and the humpbacks and dolphins and seals go through the Santa Barbara Channel from May now through pretty much the middle of summer is when you will see a large amount of those animals. So certainly a great amount of concern for wildlife right now.
And really it's the mothers and the calves coming so close to shore, frankly, to escape the orcas out in the channel. So the danger is very high, particularly for them during this migration season. We do have Captain Dave Zanaboni on the phone with Santa Barbara County Fire. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, what's the very latest information from your end?
Repeat that?
Can you just give us an update, the very latest information from your end? We're hearing it's 21,000 gallons.
Well, yeah, I haven't heard that number yet, but what we do have is roughly 4 miles of coastline that's been affected. And right now we have a unified command system set up with the United States Coast Guard as the lead incident commander. We also have Santa Barbara County Office of Emergency Management and the State Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Captain Zanaboni, can you explain the process of what is going on right now out in the ocean with the vessels that we have seen appear here within the last hour or so and getting those booms out there?
Yeah, right now there's 2 vessels on scene that they're offshore. There's the vessel called the Patriot. They're based out of Long Beach, and a vessel that's here in Santa Barbara. And that right now they're evaluating on how to go about handling this cleanup. I was told they also have 3 more cleanup vessels en route to the area. And the Patriot is, from what I understand, is going to be involved in primarily the beach cleanup, and the other vessels are going to try to take care of the ocean cleanup.
What will your priorities be as the daylight diminishes and you are left under cover of darkness? What can be done during the overnight hours?
Well, I can't speak for the cleanup vessels, but I've been told that they do operate at night. They're just evaluating that right now to see how far the spill is going to travel. It's traveled quite a way so far, but right now it appears that the majority of the main body of the spill is kind of nested in the Refugio State Beach in the bay there.
And we're hearing
the big concern right now is just to keeping it from traveling down the coast into the El Capitan State Beach area.
And is the topography of that area, Captain Zanaboni, is that helpful to containing the spread of the oil?
I'm just guessing, but I would think it would be, just because it's more contained in the bay than it is on the open coastline.
Okay, we are getting word of birds, marine life showing up coated with the crude oil. Have you seen that yourself?
I haven't seen any birds. I have heard of them, but I can tell you that the Department of Wildlife, the State Department of Fish and Wildlife, has activated the Oiled Wildlife Care Network, and they actually have members on scene right now, and they're assessing the wildlife impact and taking care of that.
Okay, we have been told that they are closing the beach down, obviously. The campground nearby, those folks that will be still trying to figure out whether those people will be evacuated or not. But a lot of people in the community saying, is there anything that we can do to help?
Refugio State Beach is being evacuated. There's a real strong odor up in the area. I don't believe there's any health concerns right now, but they're just trying to get people out of there and just to keep them off the beach, out of the water, obviously, and just make room for the cleanup efforts. And as far as people can do anything, not really, not right now. We have, all the professionals at work right now. These people are all trained at what they do, and hopefully they're going to do a good job and get it done pretty quick.
Okay, Captain Dave Zanaboni with Santa Barbara County Fire. Thank you very much for the update.
Okay, we want to go to Alan Rose standing by, Jason standing by with an update on the weather.
Yes, right now we have northwesterly flow around the Point Conception area, eastward towards Santa Barbara and around Gaviota, about 10 miles west of our oil spill. 12-mile-an-hour wind gusting to 18 around the Gaviota area. We're expecting more of that tomorrow as well. Fortunately, the wind is not as strong now as it was a couple days ago. We had some sundowner situation the last couple days, but fortunately, it's a little bit weaker now. So looking at the wind as well as the waves and the swell, we're expecting more of the 10 to 20 knot gusts up to 25, but it will be weakening to 5 to 10 knots overnight tonight. And fortunately, the waves 1 to 3 feet, the swell 2 to 3 feet. Tomorrow, the wind will start out mainly about 5 to 10 knots, but we will be increasing that up to 20 knot gusts. Same thing with the waves and the swell. 1 to 3 feet for the waves, 2 to 3 feet for the swell. Now we do have high tide tonight at 6 feet at 11:19, so we're going to continue to monitor the wind and the currents and keep you up to date with the situation.
Okay, Jason, thank you. And Paul Lopez joining us. And as John Palmentary worded it, he said this is a much different animal than the blowout of the 60s. But you've got to look at the history.
Well, it is a different animal, but you got to admit that anytime you hear the two words oil spill here on our coast, it really strikes a fear in the heart of those who grew up with in the shadow of this oil spill, really, that happened on January 28th, 1969. The impact of the spill was 10 days. To give you some perspective, it was a blowout on Union Oil Platform A. Over the 10 days, that oil seeped along our coast 80 to 100,000 barrels. It impacted shoreline from Pismo Beach all the way down to the Mexican border. The pictures there, you'll remember, of the oil-slickened birds and also the marine life, the seals, the lions, the whales that migrate through our area, as you mentioned, Beth. So we have yet to see what the real impact is. When Scott and I were on live on the air just a few moments ago, we saw a gray whale swimming right into the oil. So we don't know the impacts yet, even though it is a small amount and it remains yet to be seen. What we do know is that oil spill sparked, it was seen on national media, and it sparked legislation, environmental legislation that had never been touched upon before and really was the birthplace of the environmental movement. And there's a certain pride in the Central Coast residents in really instigating and demanding that kind of legislation. And it's the reason why you see that quick response from Clean Seas and from the Wildlife Care Network, all of these entities rushing in to really try to curb the impacts of any kind of oil spill in any amount.
And again, this spill started on the opposite side of Highway 101 on the shore side, and the seepage went down across into the ocean. It started just before noon, and officials report that the leak was stopped about 3 p.m. So you're looking at three plus hours of leakage from a pipe that is about 24 inches around. And Plains All-America Pipeline is the company responsible for that pipe and this leak. And CJ Ward is with us now to tell us a little bit about that company.
Yeah, it's Plains All-America Pipeline. They're based out of Houston. I checked their website. Now, you mentioned that the pipe is 24 inches. On their website, they actually show a 24-inch pipe right there at Gaviota. So and we also heard, too, that it may be an abandoned pipe. Right. Let's assume this is not an abandoned pipe, and it's the one on their website. Just give you a little information about that. It's 10 miles long along what they call their coastal branch. Transports oil from the Las Flores Canyon processing facility to the main All-America pipeline system at Gaviota. And its capacity, it doesn't mean that's how much was pumping at the time, but its capacity for that pipeline is 150,000 barrels per day. That's the capacity. Now, if we want to talk about some of the history about Plains All-America Pipeline, one of the more recent major spills was in Los Angeles almost exactly a year ago. It was May 15, 2014. Crude oil, about 19,000 gallons, spilled in Atwater Village in Los Angeles. You know, that's right in the heart of Los Angeles. Again, 19,000 gallons. They also had crude oil spills in 10 states, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Kansas. Those are just some of the states. They've had major spills in Canada as well. Going back to the 10 states where they had the spills, they ended up settling in 2010 with the EPA and with the Justice Department over these spills. They paid a $3.25 million civil penalty for violating the Clean Water Act because it did go into some water. They also agreed to spend $41 million to upgrade more than 10,000 miles of crude oil pipelines. Now, according to the EPA, Plains All-America Pipeline, between June 2004 and September 2007, more than 273,000 gallons of crude oil were spilled or accidentally discharged from various pipelines owned by Plains. And that also included some of that oil ended up in rivers, lakes, and oceans, is what we're dealing with right now. So they have had a history of these oil spills. And they did pay that $3.25 million EPA settlement back in 2010 for spills just like this. I did call up the EPA, hoping I could reach somebody and find out what they plan on doing. I'd imagine we're going to hear from the EPA over the next day or two about their involvement in this spill as well.
One of the things, CJ, that brings to mind what you said is if this was an abandoned oil pipeline, clearly there was oil coming from it.
Right.
What is the policy for capping off these old abandoned pipelines, and how many more are there out there along our coast?
Right.
Particularly along the Gaviota coastline.
And again, when I went back to their website, I looked at and it shows what pipelines they have that are active. And it does show a pipe, 24-inch diameter pipeline right there at Gaviota. So whether or not that's the pipeline we're talking about, I don't know, but they do show an active pipeline right there.
And I did talk to the Environmental Defense Council and spoke to a woman over there. She's the one who had heard that it may have been an abandoned pipeline, and have since talked to Owen Bailey. He is going to join us on the phone within the next few minutes, I hope, with Environmental Defense Council, and he's also going to talk to us about what he knows, monitoring the situation. Spoke with Bud Bottoms, one of the original with Goo.
He was out there in 1969.
Yes, he was. And, you know, everybody, eyes are on this. This is a big deal for locals.
One of the things that we've seen, Scott, we were talking about this earlier, is we're not seeing the booms out there close to the shoreline.
Just within the last half hour have we seen them. John Palmentary at the start of this newscast here in the 6 o'clock hour showed us one of the vessels that's out there. Apparently a couple more are on the way. But it seemed like certainly the priority was shutting off that pipeline first and taking care of that, which took about 3 hours. And then only somewhat more recently have we seen the containment taking place out in the open ocean. And at this hour and in the days going forward, really the main concern here is the effects that this is going to have on wildlife. There are not homes in this immediate area, but there certainly is a very popular campground where there are about 100 campers who were there at Refugio State Beach, and we're going to hear from one of them right now.
He told us that the park wants us to evacuate just because the clean season is going to come in and they're going to take over the parking lot and get working on the cleanup. And we're sad. It's Memorial Weekend. We took the time off of work, but they're offering a free ride at El Cap or Gaviota, so we're going to go to El Cap.
Another nice campground that they can make their way to. You heard her say the evacuation happening now of that campsite there at Refugio State Beach. And that is where we find our reporter Tracy Lair with more. Tracy.
I just talked to those sisters from Carpinteria, and they were hoping to go surfing. They were getting their wetsuits on, and then they started smelling that oil. I can tell you we now have an offshore breeze, and you're not smelling it anymore, but you are certainly seeing the oil on the beach. And as she said, the park ranger was going around telling people they had to evacuate. They have to be out by tonight. They're not rushing them. Some campers were eating dinner when we left, and some that had actually, just been celebrating. We're just going to have a few hours before they get back on the road. We even saw a couple that was planning their wedding, and they were unfortunately having to evacuate as well. They are making room for Clean Seas and the Patriot. These are contract workers that are coming out to clean up this oil. They have ships already offshore, and they'll be trying to get all this oil off the beach. Unfortunately, most of it is up on the sand now. It's covering rocks. We talked to some people who saw some whales out there earlier today. They were concerned, but the whales seem to have gone away. They did see some birds that were oily, and some tried to rescue them, but they squirmed away as well. But mostly it's oil covering rocks right now, and the cleanup has begun. What we don't know is how long it's going to take, and it's Memorial Day weekend, and these campers were told they could go up the coast and camp for free if they were interested in doing that, but they can't stay at Refugio, at least not tonight and for the holiday weekend. I'm live just south of that campground. Tracy Lair, back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you so much, Tracy. Sadly, they may want to abandon their coastal trip altogether.
Yeah, it's not going to be good times in the days ahead there at Refugio, and the cleanup effort will continue certainly for quite some time.
We will take a quick break and be right back with our team coverage.